Hello and welcome to Sacred Psychology, the podcast for misfits and mystics. Here, neuroscience and spirituality go hand in hand. Join me, Tamara Powell, on a no-holds-barred adventure outside the box, because that's where all the truly great shit happens anyway. Welcome back to Sacred Psychology. I'm your host, Tamara Powell, and this is week 3 of Spreading the Podcast Love. So before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about yet another podcast favorite of mine. It's Hypnotize Me with Dr. Elizabeth Bonet. She's a psychotherapist who offers hypnosis and/or hypnotherapy as part of her private practice. She's also been a yoga teacher for over 15 years and was the founder of the award-winning Yoga Fairy prenatal yoga company, which won the 2014 Top 100 Leading Moms in Business Award. Liz ran the company for close to 15 years before selling it in May of 2016. You can check out her podcast, Hypnotize Me, which is obviously all about various topics related to hypnosis and why it would work for you to treat all sorts of things: anxiety, depression, PTSD, business mindset blocks, you name it. Check out Hypnotize Me on the podcast player of your choice, or you can learn more about the show and Dr. Bonet at www.drlizhypnosis.com/hypnotize with the Z me. Hypnotize with a Z, me. Check out the podcast and let me know what you think. Now, on with today's show. My guest today is Jess Rosen. She's the owner of the Laughing Lizard Company, which is a small business that produces and sells live insects. Seriously, y'all, you heard me right. She breeds roaches, among other things. But besides owning a business that, by the way, was recently valued at over $1 million, Jess is mom to 2 and loves nature, live music, cooking, sewing, learning, metaphysics, and philosophy. So this is one human being that I have been curious about for quite a while. Why anyone, especially a woman, would want to play with creepy crawlies and breed them and bring her vision of working with insects to a global community was just fascinating, right? We dive into all sorts of metaphysical properties surrounding owning such a business and what being a trapezoid among trapezoids is truly like. You don't want to miss this one. So without further ado, I give you my interview with Jess Rosen. Hey, Jess.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be having this convo with you.
Me too. Thank you so much for asking me. It's really an honor, and I'm so appreciative for this opportunity.
Well, you are a trapezoid of trapezoids, so how could I not?
That is a really, really good description. A trapezoid of trapezoids. That is awesome.
For those who are unfamiliar with the intuitive, awesome bug lady that is you, can you tell people as to how a sweet little girl ended up owning a bug business that has been valued at $1 million recently?
Geez. For a while, I was like, how did I end up doing this? And I feel like it just kind of like fell in my lap. But then when I really looked back and reflected on my life and the things that I've always been interested in and the paths that I've chosen for myself for, jobs and education, as crazy as it sounds that like I breed insects, I actually breed tropical roaches for sale as food for reptiles. I also have a variety of Madagascan hissing roaches, which most people are familiar with. I have those as well, which are usually pets. They can be fed off too, but usually they're pets.
I would say, aw, and you probably have that, aw. Most people listening are like, what? Their mouths are dropping. You know that's true.
I know. And I know it sounds like such a weird thing. But when I look at the paths that I have chosen for myself, like the ones that I really loved, they all fit with ending up here. And it's pretty amazing. I mean, my educational background's in biology and environmental science. And I just loved any project that had to do with things outside, specifically water. Most of like my educational background was focused on aquatic ecology. So bugs were a big part of that. Insects were a big part of that. because there are a lot of aquatic insects and edge species that live in between, like, you know, the edges of a stream and the edge of a forest in that area. I really like edge ecosystems too, like that boundary area.
I am already loving the symbolism in that.
Right?
I mean, think about the overlap of the whole like sacred psychology for the rest of us human species and the living in the edges.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's why I like them, because there's that overlap. They're not quite forest and they're not quite stream. They're their own little thing that kind of marries the two and has characteristics of both, but isn't quite one or the other, which is, I find really interesting. And I find it really interesting to see how the different characteristics mold together and kind of interact with each other and make their own ecosystem that's separate from those two, but still very much a part of both of them. And somehow I ended up thinking that breeding roaches would be a really good idea. And I don't know what kind of crazy genius struck me that day, but it did. And I was like, I'm just going to go for this. This is about...
And it seems to be working.
Yeah. This was about 2 years ago. And I was like, you know what? This just sounds so crazy and so off the wall that it's perfect for me. And it has to work because it's so crazy, because it's so far out there. This has to work and I have to do it. And I just started learning, which I love to do anyway, and just immersing myself in what I had to do this as best as I possibly could. And it just grew and took off from there. And I'm one of those people where, like, if I'm interested in something, I am all in with it. I don't do it half-assed. I don't do anything that I'm going to do half-assed. I do what I like and what I enjoy and what holds my interest for lengthy periods of time. So for the past 2 years, my whole life has been about roaches. I've been able to bring other interests in lately, but it's mostly been bugs. And
in the beginning stages of a business, that's the way it has to be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's just so much to learn. I think one of the things that I was reflecting on this week, because there was a post in one of the reptile groups that somebody asked, like, what advice would you give a high school student that wants to get into this or at least keep reptiles as a hobby? And I was like, you need to have so much knowledge across so many other areas, or at least build a base of knowledge across so many other areas other than the species that you're working with. Business management, employee management, accounting, customer service, like all these things are skills that you have to bring into a business that deals with live animals. And you would think that the live animals or insects, whatever you're dealing with, would be the main thing that you need to learn about. And they're an important part of it. But there's so much else that goes with it. So it's not just been about immersing myself in bugs, but really finding, and enjoying. Really, I've been really enjoying actually watching the nuances in the market and trying to find like that thing that works for whether it's, marketing or I don't advertise, but for becoming more visible.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm sorry to interrupt, because I think this is really, really important for every entrepreneur listening. I personally get a lot of questions as to how did you build a 6-figure counseling practice? Because in my industry, I just posted a stat of one of my fellow clinicians posted, I reshared it, of how the average therapist only makes $36,000 in private practice.
Right. I saw that.
It's crazy. You come out with, if anyone's like me, like $100,000 in student loans, you've dedicated, it's like a 10-year process to becoming a therapist.
Right.
And only make $36,000. And I tell them one of the main things is you already went to school for the whatever it is, the psychology, the accounting, the fill in the blanks, whatever your favorite puzzle was that you studied. But now exactly what you were just saying, Jess, comes into play. You realize that alone does not make you a great business person.
Right.
That alone does not make you a great networker. And so for me, from the get-go, I was listening to podcasts, I was reading books on subjects that were outside of my comfort zone, but that definitely played a part. And what I love that I hear in your story, similarly to mine, is that you either surrounded yourself with people who knew how to do it, or eventually when you could, you outsourced it.
Right. And that's what I've been doing. Like, personal development has been a huge part of this. And whether that's personal development and learning, different aspects of running a business, personal development in myself, and learning how to handle those things that you don't get in like a normal job, right? Like you don't, if you work in like a retail space, or I did a lot of like waiting tables, I didn't get customers at my table asking me to lower the price of something on the menu because they didn't,
yes,
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about the money. Because it's not about, what my prices are or what they aren't. It's about like, you feel really bad when somebody asks you that and you have to tell them no, or you feel bad later if you tell them yes. And then you're like, damn it, I just like undersold myself. And I really needed, I really need to be making, what I should be making on these, which is a fair value for the market, and working.
Otherwise your business doesn't survive. And that's the thing. I see so many businesses. I mean, you can Google the stats right now, 80 to 90% fail.
Right. Which is insane. And it's scary. I mean, it's scary to think about starting a business. And I couldn't even think about that because I knew that was a statistic going into starting my own business. And while I was very deliberate about the fact that I was starting a business from the very beginning when I did this. I mean, I did it because I love it I knew I would enjoy it as a hobby because I cultured insects previously. And I just knew that this was going to be a good fit for me. But I also was very clear that this was a business and I had to have not the traditional business mindset of like, it's business, it's cutthroat, everybody's competition, but a mindset of, yes, this is business and I'm going to run this as business, but I'm also going to bring that human aspect into it. And I'm going to bring myself into it. And I'm going to build it organically and in a way that is, while it's run very much from the outside, like a traditional business, there's values and, there's a structure of, I'm trying to think of the right word. There's a structure of just like wanting to, of passion and educating and wanting all of my customers to like leave their interaction with me a little bit better than they were when it started. Making buying roaches fun. Honestly, that's what I wanted to do, was make buying roaches an enjoyable experience. Because I bought from other vendors, whether it was live insects for our pets or the pets themselves or whatever it was. And I had really, really unsatisfactory experiences as a customer. And it was so frustrating. I was like, and I cannot be the only person frustrated. And it was not just like one or two businesses. It was several, almost a lot of them that I had dealt with. And I was really frustrated with that.
I'm so glad that you brought up yet another great point. This seriously could be a business tutorial podcast. Right? And I thank you for that because this is something I'm super passionate about, that from the second somebody even looks at your profile or thinks of, wanting to buy roaches or whatever your business is, that's when the performance starts. And not performance as in fake, because like you say, you're bringing your authenticity, your client-centered, your warm, humanitarian approach into it. That's when it starts. And I am so shocked at how many counselors, coaches, apparently other bug sellers do not get that human to human part down. They're not returning phone calls. They're letting their messages hang out in their inbox for 2 weeks. But by the time you get back around to them, boo-boo, let's hope they've already found someone else. I mean, how ridiculous, how ridiculous is that?
Right. I had a glitch on my Facebook page and my business page, and people were sending me messages and I could see the notification, but there was no way to get to the messages. And I felt so horrible about it. Like I tracked these people down on Facebook to my personal page and I was like, hey, I saw you message my business page, but I can't get to it. I am so sorry. Oh my God.
Now that's going above and beyond.
Because I really value the time that people take to message me. And lately, what's been tough for me about my business growing is that I don't always have the time to have that immediate response to all my messages.
So you're in the growing pains of scaling now.
Yes. Yeah. And it's been interesting. And that's one of the things that kept me from thinking any bigger, was being scared that I would lose that, or that I wouldn't be able to find people to work with me that were able to keep that. And thank God I have my assistant, Sean, who is awesome, who I know is going to listen to this, because
shout out to Sean.
Yes, he does. He has totally stepped it up with every time there's been like a challenge or something. He's been like right there with me, hey, what can I do? And it has restored my faith in being able to grow this beyond what I can do on my own. Because I was very aware that like if I wanted to keep the values that are important to my business and to the foundation of my business and what make it work.
The why of it. Those values are so important.
Right. I sell roaches and I have never paid for advertising or marketing. Never.
That's amazing.
Right. I never and that was like something that I specifically set out to do. And I said, I'm going to sell roaches and I'm going to do it without advertising. I'm going to do it without marketing. I'm going to do it all on word of mouth and referrals. And that's what I set out to do. And from the beginning, I was so scared though that I would not be able to get it past a certain point because I knew I needed to have a team working with me that was on the same page. And he has totally restored my faith in finding somebody that, finding people to work with me that do that. And my sister-in-law, Stacy, who is awesome. And she shows up.
The research really backs you up on that because when the leader puts forth those values and the mission statement and really treats their employees and their team members and their clients in ways that backs that up, it is so easy for those around us to get excited by it and to naturally fall in line with them. But
Absolutely.
It has to start at the top, and it requires us doing our introspective work and our personal development, like you were saying, to stay passionate and excited and to explain that and communicate it clearly.
Right. And I was raised on those values. My great-grandfather founded one of the resorts that really got honeymoon tourism going in the Poconos where I live. And I grew up, and he lived to be 95 until I was 18, but I grew up always hearing amazing things about him as a person from both employees, because a lot of people in the local area, everyone, people that had stayed at the resort. I have a customer whose family member was the photographer for my family's resort.
Wow.
And she doesn't even live in Pennsylvania. She lives somewhere else. And it just, it just came up in conversation. And everybody, she was like, oh my gosh, I'll have to ask, my family member. And every time a connection like that happens, whoever it is always has such nice things to say. I've had people reach out to me on Facebook because I commented on like a photo album of like pictures of the abandoned resort because he sold it back in the 80s. He sold it back in the 80s, and I'm still hearing about how he affected people's lives in a positive way, either through them staying at his resort or working there, which is amazing because it's
damn.
Right.
It which just goes to prove the point. It's really like Maya Angelou's quote that people won't remember what you said or what you did, but how you made them feel.
Right. So somebody actually reached out to me because they saw my comment on this post and was like, "Hey, my parents, stayed at this resort, and we always remember hearing about it growing up, but now they're getting older and they want to be able to remember it more clearly. Can we get in touch with somebody who was also there," which would be my grandmother, and just having him having that kind of legacy and that kind of reach, long past when he's gone, to 18 years, 16, I don't know. A lot of years
but he passed
after he's been gone. Right. Right. And that was always something that I held on to, though, was that if I ever have a business of my own or just whatever I do, you take care of the people around you. You take care, because that's what he did. He took care of his employees.
And the people that you work with.
Right. You take care of your employees. Right. Your customers, their you make that, people know that you care about them. Then they become invested in what's important to you as well. And you all work together and it benefits everybody. And that is what's really important to me in this, that it's fun. It's fun for everybody.
And it comes across. And now you're married with kiddos, right?
Yes. Yeah. I have an 11 and 13-year-old.
So what a great example and energy to pass on to them, to let them see you, number one, being a kick-ass lady boss entrepreneur who set a goal and achieved it and now has a business valued at over $1 million. And then number two, you work hard, you play hard, and you treat everyone with respect and value in absolutely everything you do, to the point where you're running your business on word of mouth, which is way better than a bajillion paid Facebook boosted posts anyway.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. I would have, I don't know that I would feel good about doing that either. Like I had a really hard time just like charging the bottom barrel prices for my things. You know what I mean? Like I and putting it out there and trying to build this, I would feel like, I don't know, I'm just trying to make people buy something. Like, I don't sell the roaches. I sell them, right, obviously, but like, I don't try to like encourage people to buy them or convince people to buy them, because the bugs sell themselves because they're awesome.
I think the convince word is, yes, really key there. You really represent what we call attraction marketing.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what it would be. And it's so cool how it works and how it builds, like just watching that process over the last 2 years and seeing how the growth over an insect that most people pay to get rid of. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like within the reptile and invertebrate community, they're kind of a big deal. Like dubia roaches are kind of a big deal right now. They're like a huge exploding market. Who knew?
The rest of the world is going,
right. But to the rest of the world, when I tell them I breed roaches and I sell them to people alive, they're like, you are crazy. They either give me this look and walk away, like I can't even talk to you, or they're interested and they want to hear about it, which I always love to explain it, because it's such an interesting thing that I never even knew. I didn't really know existed until we started keeping reptiles. And it's so cool to see attraction marketing working in an industry where I sell something that most people pay to get rid of.
I loved your Facebook Live video where you walked us around your bug room. I think that was one of the most watched videos in the tribe for quite a while, because everyone was just sitting there like, jaw drop. Even if they would never consider such a thing, it's still like watching a train wreck. You can't look away. Oh my God. Those are bugs in those boxes, and she's got boxes and boxes and boxes of them.
Right. And I'm so weird, right? Because spiders freak me out. Spiders really creep me out. I do not like spiders, but I literally have my hands in thousands of roaches all day long, 3 to 4 days a week, minimum, sometimes 6 or 7. And you just kind of like, you don't think about them as bugs after a while, or like as roaches, because they're not pest roaches. They're tropical roaches. They're not the kind that can spread disease. And most people, when they think of roaches, they think of pest species, but the majority of roach species out there are not pests, and they don't even have the potential to become a pest. And these guys are from Central and South America in the rainforest. And they actually need like pretty specific conditions to thrive and grow and be healthy. So it's a lot more work than you would think, trying to keep roaches and to intentionally produce them. And
so many life lessons in there already.
Right. And I physically cannot get enough of them. I feel like I will never have enough of these things to meet the demand that is out there.
I'm just thinking about, like, number one, appearances are not always what they seem, because like you said, there's a difference between pest roaches and these tropical roaches that are used for feeding. And then number two, there's another great lesson in like learning to face your fears head on. And then there's always another growth edge, because it sounds like spiders are still one of yours.
Right.
And then even come right down to the idea of there's a beautiful circle of life that is happening, and you're part of that beautiful ecosystem and contributing to it.
Yeah, and I think that's why roaches fit, because I could create that ecosystem here. You know, when I was finishing my degree in 2010, I had broken my leg. I was actually on a trip for a class that I was so excited about. I think I was the only person on that trip that actually wanted to be there. But I really wanted to be there. And the first day I broke my leg, and they told me at the emergency room I had to go home because I needed surgery to fix my broken ankle.
Damn.
And during the surgery to fix my broken ankle, they cut the main nerve in my leg. So I was able to finish my degree, but like my research that I've been doing at the time, I wasn't able to continue that in the way that I had planned, which was getting published, and eventually turning it into a master's thesis, and continuing through. I had plans to continue it with grad school and aquatic ecology research, and there was just no way. Physically, I could not continue on that path. And it was really devastating, because this was what I loved, and I'd gone back to school when my kids were like 2 and 3 years old, which is, if you have gone back to school just as a non-traditional student without kids, it's hard.
My life. Yes.
Right.
But with kids.
Right. To go back when my kids were toddlers and to have, especially at this time, the perspective of, my son's going into kindergarten. Oh my gosh, I just spent the last, 3 to 4 years. It took me 4 more years to finish my degree. I was in school for 6 years because I jumped around a lot. I have a lot of interest.
No shame in that game.
I changed my major like 18 times, and most of it was in like the sciences. But I did philosophy for a while and psychology and tried to like marry those two things. But it had me thinking way more than like I should be thinking, because I kind of get lost thinking sometimes. And eventually I found my way back to what I had, similar to what I had started in. I had started in marine biology, and I found my way back to biology and environmental science with a focus on aquatic ecology of the Pocono area, which I just loved. I loved because I knew this area. I always, I grew up playing around in the woods and digging up salamanders and playing with bugs, and I just loved it. And to sacrifice so much time with my children when they were that young, to go to school, to give them a better life, and to really pursue a dream that I thought that I was never going to accomplish, and then to have it ripped out from under me at the last minute was so devastating and life-changing. And I really had to take some time and really like evaluate what was important in my life. What did I want for myself? What were my priorities? I had to prioritize to a point where it was like down to like the minutes of like energy and walking time I knew I had in a day before my leg was going to like just not cooperate anymore. And I would like bank this time that I could do. I would be like, okay, so I can't do, if I don't do a whole lot during the day, because with a cut nerve, it was like really, it was really sensitive for a long time. It took me 2 years just to get off crutches, to be able to put weight on my leg. Another 3-4 years to really get to a place where I could walk comfortably throughout like the course of like a normal day of just like doing mom things, let alone like I can't really like stand for extended periods of time or drive for extended periods of time. And I would be like, okay, so if I like bank my energy time, like my walking time, I can go and do this one really fun thing with my kids this week. And I won't be able to walk for 3 days after that because my leg will be so irritated with me for walking so much and keeping up with my kids for that day, but whatever, because it will be worth it. And I really learned how to prioritize what's important. And I was really scared for a while to pursue anything that I was really passionate about. I was worried that it was going to get taken away. Yeah. Because that had happened. And not that like I felt like it was deliberately taken away from me. I mean, life happens, shit happens. It was really shitty timing in my life. But looking back now, I can see how all of that led me here. And that was one of the draws to having this business, was I could create that ecosystem here and do it in a way that I could have some amount of nature around me, even though they're roaches, they're still part of nature, all the time, and work in the field that I love to study and learn about, and do it in a way that did not take away from me participating in the rest of my life, which would happen physically because I and it wasn't affected by my physical limitations either. So
what a wonderful story of like embracing a growth edge in the universe is literally quote unquote gift of a plot twist there.
Right. Yeah. I do not challenge the universe ever to give me a challenge, because I know it's going to be, whenever I'm like, I'm a little bored with my life, I need something exciting going on, it's always like some big shit. Like, here, like, we're going to give you this to deal with. And it's like, oh, no, thank you. Like,
I'm good.
I don't want that anymore. Because, you know what? I think perspective is everything. I really think it is. Like, I love how you do on those, the turn it on its head. I think it's
Tuesdays. Turn it on its head Tuesday. Yes.
Right. I love that, because I am always doing that with situations. I'm always looking at whatever that other side of it is. What's the other side? Yeah, this is like shitty, but there's some middle ground, and then there's another side, and like, where can like what can I do with this situation to make it something that's not a problem, or that's a positive thing, or whatever it is. Or even if it sucks, I still have to, I have to deal with it. Like, I shipped out a whole ton of bugs on Tuesday, and my shit is like, my tracking shit is like all a mess right now. I don't know what's going on. They got to the sort facility like 24 hours after they usually do. And I'm like really worried about my bugs and my packages. But at least, right, at least I keep track of the things, right? So now I can be prepared, and I'm not going to be shocked if all these orders show up dead because they spent 24 hours stuck on Route 80 going to Philadelphia, and got really cold instead of like, being in a sort facility for several of those hours or whatever. And, you got to take what comes at you, not take it personally, and not think, oh, because one thing went wrong, everything else is going to go to shit. No, you just deal with it and you move on.
Yes, what a great, powerful lesson for all of us. And just don't take it personally.
right. Sometimes it feels personal. On that one. Mm-hmm. Right. It does. Even though, like it feels like, why is all this shit happening to me? Like, this has been like a really tough week just in general. We got to reshingle our roof, and we got a foot of snow after we realized we needed to reshingle our roof.
Oh, my goodness.
We ended up home with half of the wrong shingles and all this nonsense. And then this happens with my shipping, and I'm so and hopefully it'll be okay. But I'm like, you know what? At least I'm getting all the bad shit for the next 3 months out of the way in 1 week. Mm-hmm. And I can have a bunch of really good weeks after this because all this is behind me. And it's not happening spread out over several weeks. You got to find the little things sometimes.
Exactly. Your story is so chock full of spiritual life lessons. What are some of the epiphanies that you've realized along the way that you are really taking with you that have changed the way that you look at things dramatically?
God, don't live your life by default. That's something.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Right. Don't live your life by default. I realized I was doing that a long time ago, that I was letting other influences, whether it was people, whether it was society's influences or their expectations or whatever, influence the choices that I made and what I thought I should do and what I wanted to do and whatever. And I wasn't picking the things that resonated with me. I wasn't choosing to do things that that I wanted to do, that I loved. And I'm not saying, well, forget all responsibilities and just do whatever you want all the time, but like be aware of what you're doing. There's like, you always get sometimes the questions posed to you of like, if you had what's one piece of advice you would give somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, somebody's told me that if you want to make a decision, you have to back up that decision with all of your other decisions, right?
Oh, that is.
And I love that. That stuck with me for a really long time. That has stuck with me since I heard it, and I followed that. Like I really took that, and I followed that from that point forward, because if I'm going to set a goal, or I'm going to decide to do something, in order to make it happen and make it be the best that it can possibly be, and be in a place where I can enjoy what that thing is, I have to be consciously following it up with decisions that back up that decision, that build on that decision. Like every 6 months, I write down goals for my business and kind of my life in general, but it's been more focused on my business since I started doing this 2 years ago. And then I take that big goal and I break it down to a bunch of little steps and goals and processes that build on each other to reach that goal so I can do it. Because otherwise, I'll look at that big goal and be like, oh my God, I think it's overwhelming. Right. It's overwhelming. It'll feel like it's so far away. It'll feel like it's insurmountable. Like I'm never going to get there. I remember a day when I woke up, and it was when I was going to school, and I was, at the time I was on my own with our kids. And now, their father at the time when our kids were younger, or the time when their dad and I weren't together. So I was on my own with these two toddlers, and I was going to school full time, and I was working full time, and I was so overwhelmed. And I remember waking up one day being like, oh my God, how am I going to pay all the bills by myself? How am I ever going to finish school? How am I going to ever do these things? And then right away, like my brain kicked in, or something kicked in. I guess it was my brain being overwhelmed. I don't know what was overwhelmed, but something kicked in and said like, wait, you are paying all the bills by yourself, and you have been for a long time. Like you're totally good on this, right? Why are you worried about this? Like that mountain got a little bit smaller.
A little reality testing. Right. Yes, girl. Yes.
Right. You're in school and you are set to graduate in 2 semesters. Mm-hmm. After this semester, so you have 2.5 semesters left, and you are good. You are more done with school than you have left to go. Mm-hmm. Like that is not a big part of this mountain that you think is in front of you anymore. This is not a big part of this. And I realized like my mindset of what I thought was possible had not caught up with what I was actually doing. Because Because for a long time, like when I decided I was not going to live by default anymore, even though I was terrified, I did whatever was in front of me anyway. Whatever it was, like when I said, I'm going to do this, and then I backed it up with those decisions and opportunities started showing up, I took those opportunities even though I was scared. Because I was more scared of what would happen to me if I did not take those opportunities. Not like what would happen to me, but how I would feel. I didn't want to live the rest of my life regretting not taking an opportunity to do something that I know I can do that would make my life better, that I would enjoy. No, I have to do those things. So my mindset was still in that fear of like, oh my God, I can't do these things. I can't do whatever. I can't take care of my children as a single mother and go to school and work and keep everything together. I can't, whatever. But in reality, I was doing those things already. And that was like a day that I remember where things really shifted, and that
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Right. Where that mindfulness of like being able to act on what was in front of me really turned into like a more internal process of consciously making decisions for myself and what I wanted and creating the life that I wanted for myself. Because you spend a lot of time doing whatever it is you choose as your career, or whatever you choose to do with your majority of your time. If you choose to be a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is, it makes you love that. It makes you love that, whatever it is. Or you love
the joy along the way.
Right. You love the majority of it. Right. There's aspects to my business that I'm not thrilled with doing, but they're like,
I hate progress notes. I hate talking to psychiatrists unless they're amazing ones. Yes.
Right. But I do them because it allows me to do what I love the majority of the time. And I do it because it's one of those important things. But at the same time, I've also been able to create something where I get to do what I love the majority of the time. And then it enables me to do more things that I love the majority of the time, and that.
What's one spiritual lesson that you find yourself currently working on? What are you marinating in, Jess? It seems like you've conquered so much. What's one growth edge that's currently got you wrestling with?
Let me say one growth edge that I am currently wrestling with. I like to think about your questions because I don't want to be ending this thinking about, like, damn, I should have said this.
Take your time.
I guess balance is a big one right now. And I'm really trying to like find that balance and kind of like, is this real, what I've created? And is this going to keep going for the foreseeable future? Having recently, not exactly at this moment, but kind of like the last couple months up until right before Christmas, I was really having a hard time with taking on the responsibility of like having people work for me and having that as a responsibility of like, I'm going to have an effect on their lives and their livelihood, and, having to make decisions so that I knew that I could reasonably provide their income for them,
Yes.
Looking at that, that's scary because the goals that I have for my business are to really go beyond what I ever thought I could possibly do in terms of scale. And I thought about that for a while, and I would go back and forth and I would say, you know what, I think I'm just going to keep it small and do it like this. And then there would be something that would come up and say, no, your place is not here. You need to keep going. Like there's a bigger place for you in this, and you need to keep going. You need to keep following this through, and you'll know when you're at that spot where you can like kind of like level off, but it's not here yet. And I've learned to listen to those nudges, because if I don't listen to the gentle nudges, then I get like a big smack in the face. And like,
friend,
right?
And learn while it's small, boo. Learn while they're small.
Right. If I don't make, gradual adjustments to my course along the way, I get like picked up and put somewhere else. So I really had to like get quiet and listen to that and think about it before I made any like real decisions on it. And I came to a place where I was like, you know what, I really need to follow this through and see where it goes instead of consciously trying to slow down the growth. So now I think it's balance. Balance is going to be the next thing that I really have to focus on, because they're in cyber school right now, and their dad does the majority of schoolwork with them, which is a big shift because previous years, I was the one that was doing it with them.
Right.
And thank God he's awesome with them with doing schoolwork. He really does a great job. Shout out to Mike too, because he does. I give him a hard time at it sometimes, but he does. He has got those kids on track this year, despite the difficulties we've been having with their school. And it's, I need that time and that space to like get away from my business as much as I love it. I need that time and that space for me to like balance, relax. Right. And have that time with my family and be able to enjoy it and be able to bring more of what I've put in, that energy that I put into my business, put that back into my family and my other interests outside of bugs. So I have something to talk to people about besides bugs when I finally go out and do things, and not just for that reason, but just in general.
Well, I love it because it speaks to not forgetting to nurture the rest of us.
Right. Like really get all of that down, because I tend to like get laser focused in one area and I focus on that. And I keep things going in the other areas, but they kind of don't get as much as
burner.
Right. They don't
bring them every once in a while.
Right. And I want to have that balance where everything gets the attention that it needs and that it deserves, whatever that proportion is, and having that balance across my whole life, where my whole life is not all about just work or all about just whatever, and having those other interests. I realized like for a long time, I would introduce myself as Dylan and Eleni's mom. Right. And when, especially when the kids were little, and I was like, I need to be my own person.
Well, that's your role, but it's not your soul.
Right. Like I need to have things outside of my business that I love that have nothing to do with it, just so I can have that space. I need to have things with my family that we do and enjoy, that is that space for us. Because I don't want my kids to see me just working all the time. That's how I grew up, and it's important. I get it. I totally get it. Like you need to be able to provide for your family, and there's that pressure. That's another thing that would be the one thing that's actually going on right now, is that feeling that pressure of, okay, our whole family stability is riding on this. It's really riding on this. Like it was riding on it before, but we didn't have a whole lot to lose before. Like now I'm at a place where like it's really riding on this to do this because I see what's possible, and that future that I see that's possible, that I want for my children, that I want for myself and for my family.
Deeply to my soul, yes.
Right. Like that is riding on this, like a couple of years ago, there was no possibility of thinking like, I'll hire private art teachers for my child because she loves art so much and that's what she wants to do. Like there was no thinking about that, or there was no like loss associated with not being able to do that, because there was no way in my mind I was going to be able to do that or provide that for her. Now that I'm like, wow, that's something I could reasonably do for her within the next year or so and provide that for her so she can explore this and not feel pressured to, have other. I think art gets put on the back burner, which is upsetting to me. You know what I mean? I think that if you say like, I want to pursue art, you kind of get pressured into pursuing other things that are a more stable income as far as like a career choice. And I don't want her to feel like that's what she has to do because she's so talented. I don't want her to feel like she can't do that as her thing that she loves. I want my children to have the ability to pursue what they love and get good at it and whatever that is, and it would be a loss now if I was unable to do that. I would feel like that it would be a loss of if I didn't keep this going the way it needs to, you know what I mean? So there's that pressure of, oh man, like this shit's real.
It makes a lot of sense. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs right now are shaking their heads in agreement, like I guess nodding their heads in agreement. Speaking of, as we start to wind down, because I could talk to you all day about this.
I know, I could too.
Any final thoughts of love or empowerment for the other trapezoids listening? What would Jess Rosen, the intuitive bug lady, want them to know?
Take some time to really find what you love and what you enjoy and what you are passionate about, and be flexible with where that might end up. And when you find that space that like is yours, where like it feels like this is my home. This is where I belong. This is what I need to do. Find a way to do the most of that while you're getting paid to do it. Because that's really where you want to be anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And if we spend a minimum of 40 hours a week working. If you own a business, you know that you never stop working. So do something that you love and take the time to find that out. Don't just say, well, I really like whatever. Take the time to find out what you love, what aspects of what you love you are passionate about, that you enjoy doing, and find a way to do the most of that. Because I like a lot of things. I have interest in a lot of things, but I may not really enjoy doing them all the time, or I may not enjoy all the aspects of what that thing is. And really, get specific about what's important to you and what you want, and be conscious about that process of exploring it instead of just going with whatever, or what's easy, or what somebody else did. Find that path that is yours and make a space in it for yourself.
I love that. Seriously, drop the mic on it. What a knockout combo of make the conscious choice, but stay flexible. It just doesn't get better than that. It covers everything.
You have two opposite things that are coming together, and you find a balance in the flexibility and the specificity.
Jess, thank you so much once again for this incredible conversation. Where can people come to hang out and learn more about you and your awesome bug empire?
So I'm on Facebook, and it is the Laughing Lizard Company, live feeder insects. It's also facebook.com/Laughing Lizard Reptiles is the actual link. You can message me on there anytime. You'll get me. Sometimes you'll get Sean, but I'm always happy to answer questions. Even if you have no interest in buying roaches, it's totally cool. I won't try to sell them to you, but I will totally answer whatever questions you have about them or about what they're used for or whatever. I really enjoy educating people about them and talking about them and whatever, because bugs are my life right now. bugs and live music. That's where I go to escape, is live music. You can find me usually at any local Grateful Dead cover band shows too, if you want to find me in person.
If you see her, say hello. That's awesome.
Right. Those are the two places where my life is right now, and at home with my kids, hanging out with them.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sacred Psychology Podcast. I pray you found some inspiration and empowerment to go out and make this life the most fulfilling possible. You can follow Sacred Psychology on Facebook and YouTube. If you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Tag us on social media and let us know what you think as well. Please note that the information provided is not meant to convey professional, psychological, or medical advice. If you could use such services, I highly recommend seeking them out from someone you trust. To get in touch with me personally or to see how we might work together, please check out ariatherapy.com or talesfromatrapezoid.com. Until next time, everyone.